Booyah!
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here today for another TF2 weapons comparison, and today I will be talking about the spy knives. Generally, the spy knives have a pretty big range as per what they can do. Some are more interesting than others, and they all really have their good upgrades, and there's no real terrible knife. I've noticed that. There's no real bad knife to use. In fact, all of them work in their own way. It's just some of them are a lot more difficult to use. Then, like, you need to be a very fucking good spy, for example, to work with the Conniver's Kunai or Your Eternal Reward, and really, it's very, very difficult to work with it. But if you can, it still works as a knife, and it's still very efficient. For that reason, this person will be a bit more interesting than the other ones, because every knife works in its own way. And because of that, and as per usual, I will not be talking about the default, because there is nothing to cover with the default. The default is boring. Although the default is certainly a good knife, what is it to cover? It's just a normal knife. It doesn't have anything cool to it. So, for that reason, I won't be covering it. Anyway, pleasantries aside, onto the video. First knife on the list, we have the Spy-cicle. Now, the Spy-cicle is a very simple concept. The way it works is that when a pyro lights you on fire, instead of being on fire, your Spy-cicle disappears instead. As well as that, there's a second drawback that when you backstab someone, they become an ice statue. Now the second thing isn't noticeable on my screen because I don't have Gibbs on, but for people who do, which is a large majority of people in pubs, they'll notice this. So when you use it, they're going to turn around and see people behind you, and they'll get suspicious. However, this isn't as big an issue as you might think, for one main reason. When you're backstabbing a person, they're not going to immediately turn around. They never do. So if you're chain stabbing, which you often do with the Spy-cicle if there's no pyros around, there's no issue because they're not going to turn around and see something, and by the time they do see it, you're long gone. So it isn't a big deal. It isn't that. The biggest drawback / upgrade for this is the other effect, because there's certain situations where the Spy-cicle does work and there's certain situations where it doesn't work. For example, if you're randomly walking around looking for good targets, looking for sentry nests, and a pyro checks you and you check out because your knife disappears, you're set. However, if you're trying to backstab a heavy and you're running right up behind him and a pyro spy checks you at that second, you lose your knife and you are completely vulnerable to every sort of damage, and they see you walking towards an important enemy's back, they're going to start shooting at you and realize that you probably are a spy and you're going to die. This weapon is best used with the Dead Ringer because combined it makes you practically immortal, because the Dead Ringer's only weakness is pyros. If you use the Dead Ringer and the Spy-cicle, you never die, because when the pyro tries to light you on fire, the Spy-cicle will stop it. When everything else tries to kill you, the Dead Ringer will stop. For that reason, it's an amazing combo to work with. In my opinion, the Spy-cicle is best used with the Dead Ringer. The next knife on the list is probably my least favorite, but it's still a very, very good knife. The knife is the Conniver's Kunai. The way it works is you lose most of your health and you're left with 60 health. But in return, when you backstab an enemy, you gain a fraction of their health. This can be very, very useful if you like being a vampire spy, but I don't, because you are so vulnerable before you get your first backstab. It's a great chain stab weapon because people who notice you and fire spam at you won't be able to kill you immediately because your overheal will stop them. However, on the flip side, pyros really fuck up this, because any sort of fire from a pyro will destroy your overheal because it's already decreasing as it is. Combine that with 3 health lost all the time is terrible. It's really, really annoying. However, there's plenty I know who can perfectly work with the Conniver's Kunai and can keep chain stabbing and remain at overheal 98% of the time. Personally, I find the Conniver's Kunai very difficult to use, mostly because I find it difficult to get that first backstab. That first backstab is what makes it hard, because think about it. Before you get that first backstab, 1 rocket can kill you, 1 sticky can kill you, being in general proximity of 2 tubes can kill you, any sort of fire from a pyro can kill you, a meat shot from a scout can kill you, and I'd say about 4 or 5 shots from a heavy can kill you. A lot of stuff can kill you very, very fast before you get your first stab, and if you're very, very good at chain stabbing before someone tells you, or trick stabbing, this weapon's great. However, if you're not that good at getting the first stabs and you try to work it out before you do it, you'll probably die when you're trying to scope out the situation, because you're so vulnerable to everything, even loose spam firing around. For that reason, I don't like the weapon, but it's still very viable if you're able to get that first stab fast, especially against heavies. Next knife on the list is basically if you want to be invisible 24/7. It's the Big Earner. The Big Earner works that you get plus 15 cloak for every backstab you get. If like me, you use the cloak like 85% of the time, I like the Dead Ringer. I'm more used to the cloak at this point. I used to use the Dead Ringer all the time, but I use it a lot less now. This combined with the L'Étranger makes you so that you're constantly invisible. You're always invisible, and people always have trouble killing you immediately. It's a very, very good weapon because if you like cloaking and scoping out the situation and seeing what's happening, it's a very, very powerful weapon. You can constantly go, even with a Dead Ringer. If you use a Dead Ringer with it, your Dead Ringer allows you to get a lot further than you would be able to if you were killed. Like, for example, if you were feigned death to get to a safe location so you can redisguise and backstab a few fools, you can get a lot further and a lot more efficiently away if you use the L'Étranger and the Big Earner. Especially if you just recently got backstabs when you feign death. It always works. In fact, it's actually a very good combo when you're almost at full Dead Ringer that you backstab someone. And suddenly you have your full Dead Ringer and you can pop it out when a soldier sees you and shoots you in the face. It actually works really, really well in a lot of situations. It's very, very good for getting out fast and getting out far with the cloak. If you're good at cloaking and you're good at, you know, staying out away from the enemy team, it's a very, very good weapon. I love it personally, but it's my spy playstyle is very, very cloak heavy. I always like to scope out what I'm doing before I backstab some fools. I always like using the Big Earner because it makes it so it's a lot easier to scope out the area. The Eternal Reward is a very, very strange weapon for me. I either do amazing with it or terrible with it. There's no middle ground because it's a chain stab weapon. That's what it is. It's a great chain stab weapon. If you didn't know, you can't disguise, but when you backstab someone, you gain their disguise. It's actually a very, very cool concept. It's actually really, really good if you get that first stab fast. Like, if you wait beside spawn and someone's too dopey to get someone, it's very, very good. In fact, in many situations, it works better because people who aren't really good at this game and they see you as the person they just saw, they won't suspect you or spy check you. As you just saw a pyro get killed because he thought I was the pyro I just killed. For those kinds of reasons, it's actually kind of amazing because no one thinks you're the person they just killed. The main weakness of the disguise kit is that if you find the person you're disguised at, you're instantly caught out. This will never happen with the Eternal Reward. The main issue I have with this weapon, which is the reason I don't use it that often, is the same issue as the Conniver's Kunai. It's very, very hard to get that first stab because you don't have the initial cloak, you don't have the initial disguise you might need to get out fast and to get out easy. You don't have that. You're either all or nothing. You can get great backstabs at a great succession if you want to, but you need to get that first backstab in order to not arouse suspicion, because if people notice you at all, they'll just immediately start firing at you. Back with the Saharan Spy set, this worked great. However, I don't think it's as good as it used to be because the Sahara Spy set's gone. So I think it works a lot better if you cloak behind a person now. The Dead Ringer used to be a lot better. The second strong suit I think the Eternal Reward has is where you come up near a sentry nest with multiple NGs and you backstab one of the NGs. The other NG won't see you coming. So if you backstab him too, that's suddenly an entire sentry nest vulnerable to your sapping, and you can just sap everything. It's a great weapon if you already have a disguise and you want to sap a sentry nest. It's very, very good for sapping multiple sentry nests from multiple NGs who are that good at the game. Like, for that reason, this weapon's very, very reliant on your first backstab and to be very, very deceitful afterwards, because it can be very efficient in that way. Anyway, all in all, this weapon works better for chain stabs back after you get your first backstab, and for working against multiple sentry nests, as well as the NGs not realizing that they're there. Sentries don't even register you being there fast enough for you to change disguise. When you take over this NG's disguise, you change faster than the sentry can register you. So you don't need to have a fast draw for the sapper. You can just change immediately and you can just sap to your own whims. That, in my opinion, makes it one of the best sapping weapons if you can get your first backstab, which can be difficult at times. It's very much an all or nothing weapon. I might have talked a bit at length this weapon, but maybe it's probably because I think it's the most interesting concept. I always thought it's a very, very cool way to work as the spy, making it so that you have to work a lot more. It makes it so that you have to sneak a lot more. You can't just rely very heavily on your disguise, and people is just general ignorance. Anyway, that's pretty much all of them. I like them all. I use them all at certain points. Personally, I use the stock a lot. But every knife works. Every knife works in their own way, and they all have their own strong suits. while the Your Eternal Reward works for chain stabs, the Spy-cicle works better against a team of multiple pyros. They all have their own great perks, and it's really important to use them all at least a bit to find out which one you like the most, because although I give recommendations from each of these, they all have they all work with their different playstyles. Like, the Conniver's Kunai works with a very aggressive spy, because if you're not aggressive, you die very fast. While the Big Owner works more for people who like to scope out the area and are very passive and wait for the right time to do a chain stab. Personally, it's a very wide range between the knives, and that's why I like the knives so much. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about. I think all the knives are very much worth a try at least, and I think they're all very, very good. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time, and have a nice day.